So I wanted to talk about a topic that was on my mind today. A few weeks ago, I read the book by Patrick Lencioni, The Five Dysfunctions of a Team. And as I was reading that book, I was really moved by it. I thought the fable at the beginning of the story was pretty riveting and allowed me to really get into the story a little bit more than maybe what I thought that I was going to be able to get into it. And it really helped to kind of set the stage to kind of open things up for me to really be able to absorb the core message that Patrick Lencioni had toward the end of the book, and that was to actually get into the five dysfunctions of a team. And I thought it was important because there are very few people that aren't in one way or another involved in a team dynamic. And you may be a leader on that team. You may be a team member, sort of a general team member on that team. But in one way or another, we all are a part of a team, or in some cases, multiple teams. And so, as I started reading that book, I really was. It was one of those things where I was tempted to jump right to the end of the book and to really jump into the five dysfunctions of a team and to kind of skip past the fable. But then as I really got into reading the fable, it really got me more curious about, of course, the five dysfunctions that comes up in a little bit more detail at the back end of the book. But I wanted to kind of think about those five dysfunctions. And the first one is absence of trust. And this is something I think that cripples a lot of teams. And you get a lot of people sometimes that are a part of a team and they focus kind of on their own aspects of what's going on. And sometimes you think that you have the answers all the time. And you don't want to necessarily open yourself up to your teammates. And it talks about there being an absence of trust, and an absence of trust being a huge time waster, which is very, very true. Um, it talks about follow through. It talks about demonstrating credibility, which is of course very important in terms of building trust within a team. And so I thought about that one as being so basic and fundamental, and yet sometimes maybe one thing that you might even take for granted. And number two is fear of conflict, and a lot of people are non-confrontational. A lot of people will go out of their way to avoid conflict, and that can be devastating because when you avoid conflict, you move away from things that can help you to grow and to get better because you want things to go nicely. You want things to go smoothly, and when you avoid conflict, you avoid the things that can help you maybe focus in on something that's not going well and to develop it, strengthen it, build it back up into something that's stronger. But it's hard to do that if you're afraid of conflict. And conflict helps you to get better results. And so you can't be afraid of conflict. Number three is a lack of commitment. And this happens um, a lot of times when people aren't buying into the system, they're not buying into the game plan, they're not buying into the program, and as a result, sometimes you can have a lack of conflict or a lack of commitment. And so it's really important that you do the sell job as a team leader to get people to understand what the shared goal is and how maybe individual goals can fit into the shared goal, with the shared goal being at the top and the individual goals hopefully feeding into the shared goal. And so hopefully the individual can get what they want, and then the team gets what it wants. And so it's really important that you have that commitment. And part of it is getting people to buy into what your vision is for how the team as a whole moves forward. Number four is the avoidance of accountability. And accountability is you know, it's self-evident that it's important. But and it says very often the key to success is the measurement of progress. And people want to see results along the way, and people want to keep their eyes on the prize, generally want to keep their eyes on the prize for what the end goal is, but you also want to see that progress toward that end goal. And sometimes when you get that little bit of sugar, it can help you to keep going and to push ahead through the challenging and the difficult times. And number five is inattention to results. Um, the team's goals and aspirations have to come first, and part of that is to define what roles are and to make sure that people are accountable for fulfilling their roles in far as it is encompassed inside the team goals. And so it's really important that teams overcome um, this hurdle, because if you're not focusing on the results, then you are really kind of driving with the parking brake on, so to speak. It's one of the sayings that I like to use, and so it's really important to you focus on the results, and so the metrics. And so a lot of times you'll hear people on Facebook, you talk about your insights, and you look at your insights to determine the success of your efforts toward hopefully the goals that you set for your social media. And the same is true for other analytics that measure your progress and help you to understand what you're doing right or what you're doing wrong. So if you use your analytics wisely, if you use your insights wisely, you can measure those results, and then that can help you to either say, yep, we're on the right path toward the goals that we set for ourselves, or we have to say, hold on, pump the brakes a little bit. Maybe the strategy that we started with is not the one that's going to really work for us. And the only way you can do that is to pay attention to the results of what you've done so far. And so, as I read that book, and again, I'm reading it a second time, and I usually when I read a book the first time, I don't go around and do a lot of highlighting the first time. I really try to focus on the overall message of what's being said in the book, and that's what I did the first time I read it. Like I said a couple of weeks ago, and as I'm reading it right now again, I'm kind of highlighting things that really stuck with me so that I can have a quick reference. And so I'll go ahead and run the highlighter across, and then put the little tabs there on the side of the book there, just to make sure that I can come back and reference those points later if I want to go right directly to a point. So anyway, those are some quick thoughts I had on Patrick Lencioni's book, The Five Dysfunctions of a Team.